Okay, so a clip has started going around from one of Jason Schreier's latest videos mentioning God of War. Now, our expectation has been that God of War Laufey, it's probably coming sooner than anybody thinks, especially because like they have marketed this every day, like since it was revealed, heavily and aggressively. Like they have constant artwork, constant trailers, like it's constant everywhere. And this game doesn't have a launch window even. Like it doesn't even have 2027, doesn't even have 2026, it doesn't have anything, 2028, we don't know. And then you compare this to like Naughty Dog, okay? Owned by the same organization. They revealed their game first, and their pinned tweet is from 2024. The last one was a retweet yesterday, hiring a technical gameplay animator. Then they had Last of Us. Okay, Last of Us. Uncharted, Last of Us. Okay, well, that's kind of a fun throwback. Okay, a little Jack and Daxter. Last of Us. Like, nothing about Intergalactic. Nothing at all. And you would assume, like, Intergalactic was revealed before. Why are they not advertising Intergalactic at all? But then they are flooding the marketplace with God of War Laufey stuff. Well, it looks like it may be because God of War Laufey is actually coming way, way sooner than anybody is expecting. Like way sooner, which is going to be very, very interesting. Here's a little snippet from the video where Jason mentions this.
And so some of those games will inevitably slip. And what's going to happen is that February and March will be super crowded. We're going to see a lot of games that, I mentioned God of War Laufey. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets announced for February or March pretty soon. Final Fantasy VII Revelation has been already announced for spring of next year. I think there are other games, Feb 27 video games. See, I Googled this on the fly because these videos are raw. One take Schreier, they call
raw.
Oh yeah, I forgot. So Fable is ready February. Persona 4 Revival is February. Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis is February. There are going to be some more, I expect, in that window. And the reason for that is because a lot of these companies make their release decisions based on their fiscal years. The fiscal year is very important. You are trying to hit your estimates and expectations as far as the money you are making in the fiscal year.
You gotta love publicly traded companies. Investors really care about annual projections and everything, and that's why you typically see stuff rushing to get out February, maybe early March, but usually February, because you have enough of a tail. You have a full month of sales before the end of the fiscal year, which is when most of the sales come before they start to tail off. So you'll see a lot of stuff coming in February for sure. For sure.
And a lot of these companies, their fiscal year ends at the end of March. One exception to that is Microsoft. Their fiscal year ends at the end of June, which is why you've seen me report about how Xbox is about to do a massive layoff.
Every year they do layoffs in July because that's at the end of their fiscal year. And then they can do the layoffs first month of their next fiscal year and then just gut it. And then by the time the next year ends, June comes around the following year, it's not that big of a deal because it's like, oh yeah, that happened a year ago. I forgot. Nobody's talking about it anymore.
Find out a little bit more about that in the next couple of weeks, because that is happening at the end of, really, it'll happen in early July after the end of Microsoft's fiscal year. And by the way, if you're wondering.
Yeah, I do think that this is lining up. God of War Laufey, I do think it lines up to see that they would put it out in early next year, especially because the assumption has been, of course, Wolverine is this fall, ? Early next year. Intergalactic we thought was probably late next year. And then you start to get into the realm of like PS6 launch titles after that. And if for example, Intergalactic is late next year, there's a potential that late next year the PlayStation 6 is launching. So it could be a cross-generational game at that point. It's insane to think that we're already on that, like we're at that point where we're starting to talk about like next year PlayStation 6, like that's where we are. But that is where we are. I mean, that's crazy, but that's where we're at in the generation. Next year will be 7 years. 7 years. Which is insane. But we will be about at that point where you got to start thinking, okay, what games are going to be those cross-generational things? That's why like Elder Scrolls 6 probably is going to be one of those next generation games. You got to start planning for that. Same with like Rockstar, they're also anticipating, okay, well, GTA Online, how are we going to juggle that with cross-generational stuff? We need to build that out and have that prepared as well. So certainly something to keep in mind. But I think, especially when you compare just how they've approached marketing, Naughty Dog being pretty much entirely radio silent on everything. And comparing that to...
My name is Pelina.
Comparing that to how they've been everywhere with God of War Laufey, it gives me the feeling that Laufey is much closer and is probably early next year after all. How they market it, I'm not totally sure. It might just be like a trailer at the Game Awards and then they rev up from there. I don't know if they'll do a big marketing push or if they're going to let it just kind of speak for itself, but we will see. The fact that they are advertising it so heavily already, though, makes me think that they're revving up. They're revving up for sure. So there you go. There you go. And Jason seems to corroborate that, saying that it lines up with the timelines he's familiar with as well. So there you go. Interesting little tidbit. Jog Live, I think. Thank you for the 5. So Luke, I saw your video discussing God of War Laufey. Is it wrong to think God of War is about the character Kratos, not other characters? No, I think God of War is about the God of War. The point of God of War Laufey is that they are, like, how do I say this without getting in trouble? Kratos is not going to be absent in this game, okay? It's important to understand that I'm walking on eggshells right now, okay? Understand, I'm trying to be coy. There's God of War 2018. There's God of War Ragnarok. And some people think like this is the Norse saga bubble. Okay, maybe I'd do a different color. Okay, this is the Norse saga bubble. And they think that Laufey is like full spin-off over here. It's my understanding that this is not what it is. You see, I'm using cubes. See, it's all connected. It's my understanding, for various reasons, it's much more this, okay? I think that this is much less of a spin-off, and it's more the final piece of the trilogy that connects everything together. So Kratos will not be like totally absent. Kratos will actually be a big part of this. Kratos and Atreus' story and everything that happened in those two games, it's all going to be tied together. It's basically, I should stop talking, but yeah. I think if you look at a lot of the discussions, a lot of the interviews, a lot of the videos from back in 2018, you can start to get this picture painted pretty clearly. You don't need any sort of super secret exclusive info. But I think if you're thinking that this is like full spin-off, totally unrelated, that is not what this is. They didn't do a good job of explaining that though, Luke. I agree. I think often there is when you want to be coy and you want to be like mysterious, sometimes things get left on the table that should have been more clearly explained. I agree. They could communicate it much better. I think that they're leaving a lot to the imagination. And I'm sure that that's something that they're going to continue to explore. How do we explain to people what this game is? As the months go by, I think that's going to be one of their main goals. So I agree. It's not been communicated clearly what exactly this is. And that's left a lot of people thinking this is called God of War, but it's a totally different game with a different protagonist, which is not what it appears to be. It seems to be like this connects directly into the other two games and ties all of it together, kind of as a foundation that intertwines tons of plot points and stuff. But yeah. Call Corey. I'll call him. We'll get him on the phone. Corey, talk to me. What's in the box? What's in the cube? What's in the cube? Dude, the cube existed a decade ago. The cube is not new. Anybody who's like, the cube was clearly added after 2022 or something. No, the cube's been there forever. He took my thing.